So welcome once again to another episode of Wiki Weekends. I'm your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, joined as ever by the lovely and luscious Holland.
Hello there.
I was trying to think of more words with an L then, but I ran short, so lovely and luscious is all you're getting for today, my friend. And today we're talking about what I think is one of the most hype aspects of one of my favourite game series, the summons of Final Fantasy. So far away, Lucas, you are a fan of Final Fantasy, yes?
Yeah, I don't think I've played quite as many of them as you, but I'm a fan of the series, yeah.
And are you a fan of the idea of summoning in Final Fantasy? Because that might be one of the coolest aspects of the series, of just summoning in this giant-ass monster, usually inspired by something from like myth or legend, to come in and just kick the enemy you're fighting's ass for you on your behalf.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the coolest parts of the series, and I don't actually know when they introduced it to the franchise.
You know what? We'll find that out, Lucas, because the beauty of Wiki Weekends is that because we cover the wiki, all that basic information is right there for us. So, list of summons. Summoned monsters, or Genju, literally phantom beast in the original Japanese, are magical creatures that can be summoned in battle. Known by many names, these powerful creatures can have both offensive, curative, or supportive effects. Summons have been a staple of the Final Fantasy series since Final Fantasy III. And what was your first Final Fantasy, my friend? Either canonically or the first one that you played?
The first one that I played was Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay.
And I just remember, like, I had a PlayStation, and my dad just turned up one day and was like, "Do you want a game that's got 4 discs? That sounds cool." And I was like, I don't know what to do. What is this? But
would you
cool.
like so much video game? I remember as well, 'cause my cousin did the same thing to me, where he didn't like Final Fantasy and he gave me the game. But yeah, he gave me the first disc. So I thought that was just the ending. So to me, the ending of the first disc is Squall dies. So for years, I just thought the ending of Final Fantasy is Squall dying.
That's a bold move right
I was
there.
like, oh, and then years later, I found out it had a second disc and the story continued. I was like, whoa, what is this?
Oh, God. Like, imagine that is just, you set off on this epic adventure, die 20 minutes in, and then that's game over.
Oh, but yeah, I think my first Final Fantasy was, it was one of the Pixel ones, and I forget which, but it was one of the ones on, like, I think it was on the SNES, because we got the SNES around the time the PlayStation was released. We were, like, a console generation behind, and I remember playing one of them, but I don't remember which, because they all kind of blend into one.
I mean, you got 6 with the one that's got, like, I can't remember their name now, but, like, the evil clown as the villain, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that one's good. Like, I know 4, 5, and 6 are all meant to be fantastic, so either way, you've probably played a very good one.
Yeah, my personal favourite of the Pixel ones is number 2, because I like the version they released for the Game Boy Advance, where throughout Final Fantasy II, several key characters die. I think you lose Joseph, your monk, then you lose, like, Gordon, your knight, then you lose, I think it's Ricard, your dragoon knight, and then you lose Minwu, your white mage. And then for the Game Boy Advanced version, they said, there's actually, an extra bonus story, and all those characters who die, you play as them as they fight through hell, and fight the final boss's other form in hell at the same time as you.
I mean, how does that boss feel? Like, finally taken down, gets sent straight to hell, and then it arrives in hell, and it's like, what do you mean there's another party waiting to kill me here?
Yeah, like, he's literally getting it from both sides. Getting back to summons here, explanations about the absence of summons in the first 2 games have been given in recent games, besides the idea for summons having come after the first 2 games released. So, because all the Final Fantasy games are, like, loosely connected, sometimes by story, sometimes just by, like, names and Easter eggs. For example, the summons, like, Bahamut is generally always a summon that you can get, or Ifrit. And I don't like how it's Ifrit.
Yeah.
The fire one. And I didn't know it was pronounced like that until I played Final Fantasy 16, and, like, Ifrit the summon is, like, a main character. And the first time I hear Clive say, the power of Ifrit, I went, no, it's Irithit. I don't care, that's how I pronounced it when I was 7, that's what it is.
I always said Ifrit, but, like, credit to Ben Starr, apparently they did excellent work on 16, But I don't trust that anyone in that game pronounced anything correctly, because those accents were fucking awful.
And the best summation of Final Fantasy 16 I've heard is when a friend of mine, who also just got halfway through and quit, explained it as like, Clive is a character with S-tier solutions to B-tier problems at best. Like, he's so powerful that there's never any challenge in the game.
I mean, I think his main challenge is just being called Clive as a protagonist.
Anyway, in regards to why the summons weren't present in the first two games, according to Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy, the world of Final Fantasy, at one point had summons, but depending on the timeline, either Garland or Chaos trapped them in the interdimensional rift.
But of course.
And that's the thing, just those Dissidia games, they're the one aspect of Final Fantasy I have never interacted with. And apparently, they're complete nonsense. I need to play them because I need to see the bullshit.
To cast off the chains that bind us to the cycle, we must make our stand!
Our common enemy is none other than the Planescourger.
I've heard they're very average arena fighters, but for Final Fantasy fans, they're really great.
Yeah, I've seen like the cutscenes, because obviously I just went on YouTube and watched the cutscenes, and I do like how, like, you just get to see like all the warriors, like literally all the warriors come in and whoop some ass. And I love when you just see like Tidus and Jekt team up, because they never get to team up in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, because the closest you really get is him using Jekt's final move, right?
Yeah, the Jekt shot.
Of course, it's just the Jekt shot. Fucking
the Jekt shot Mark II. And I love that they say in-game, yeah, he called it the Jekt shot Mark II, so that people would come and expect to see the Jekt shot Mark I. There was no Mark I, it was all branding. It's like that guy fucking knew.
Yeah, it's such a good idea.
So I'm sorry, Tidus, your dad's an absolute G. And that's just like a brief overview of what the summons in Final Fantasy are. And we won't be going through every single one, because not only is there every single mainline Final Fantasy game after Final Fantasy 3, there's also all the offshoots and stuff. So, Lucas, before we get into, like, you know, the various summons from different games, do you have, like, a favourite summon?
I mean, I've always been quite a big fan of, like, the watery ones for whatever reason. Like, maybe the animations just always look cool to me, but...
So that'd be like Leviathan and stuff like that?
Leviathan and Shiva, which is, like, the ice one. Like, for some reason as well, you know, I don't give many credits to Final Fantasy 13, but I think the 13, like, Eidolon summons are some of the coolest design-wise.
Yeah, there's some really strong designs there as well, yeah. And he's like Shiva particularly, because I don't recall what Shiva looks like in that game.
Shiva's the sisters that turn into the bike.
Okay, yeah. Now I think I remember now, yeah, because there's two of them. It's like Gemini, right? Gemini twins.
Yeah, and it's, like, weird when you think about the fact that, like, oh, she's being summoned, or they are being summoned to, like, have snow sit on their face, but other than thinking about it that way... It's like, I think the design and then them turning into the bikes is really fucking cool.
Yes, and I am a fan of Shiva. I think the best representation of Shiva is in Final Fantasy X, where Shiva comes out and, like, she just puts down, it's always diamond dust. That's the thing I love about, like, the connective tissue between Final Fantasy games of when they have the same summon, they'll generally have the same move, but each subsequent Final Fantasy game just, like, you know, just amps up how cool it is. And I think Diamond Dust has never looked cooler than it has in Final Fantasy X, where Shiva just puts down the ice sheet, looks and just goes... And that's it. Just clicks the fingers, eye shatters.
That is cool, but we can't pretend that just Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't make them all look ridiculous.
They do, but I just think there's just something about just how clean just...
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to mention as well for that summon animation as well, the absolute fucking flex they do of when Shiva's summoned, she's wearing like her snow cloak, and she just takes it off and hands it to Yuna. And just the amount of flexing going on like the translucent cape fabric physics as Yuna holds it in her hands.
Please help us!
And it's not even something they needed to do, because it's not even something they pay that much attention to, but the fact it's in is such a fucking flex, because fabric physics are such a ball ache to do in video games. And they somehow got translucent fabric physics.
I adore the fact that over time they've used the summons as like one of their ways to just flex on how ahead of the time they were in terms of graphics. And
yes.
Even to this day, right, where the entire point of Final Fantasy 16 was look how epic these fucking boss battles are.
Yeah, and I will say, those boss battles do look great, but the problem is they're way too easy because Clive is too powerful. Although, controlling E3 is real fun. Let's get onto a list of summons now. We'll start with the beginning, Final Fantasy III. There are levels of summons. It begins at level 1 with a chocobo. And that's another, recurring theme in Final Fantasy games with summons, isn't it? Like, chocobo or fat chocobo sometimes comes in.
You're up.
Yeah, it's weird to me that is it just a regular chocobo? Because normally there's a gimmick to the chocobo summon, right?
Well, chocobos are generally quite powerful, and that's like another recurring theme in Final Fantasy. Like, chocobos either go from being just like, okay, they're like essentially just horses of this world, to, oh, these things are super strong and do not fuck with them. Like in Final Fantasy VII, the original, where you get the golden chocobo. It's like, this thing can walk over mountains. You can just moonwalk over a mountain. No fucks given.
Oh, God.
And like it says, as the level of your summon goes up, as does the strength of the creature. And the following jobs can summon: Evoker, Summoner, and Sage. And how do you feel about the job system in Final Fantasy? I'm not a fan, because I feel like it makes the characters have less identifiable personality, because it essentially makes every character interchangeable, because they can now do any role.
So I'm not really experienced with 1 through 6, so most of the games with job systems and stuff I haven't really played, but I like the idea of it, especially the ones where it sounds like you can kind of mix and match to multi-class.
That can work.
I like that idea.
I like the idea of picking your class to start with, like in Final Fantasy 1, where you can pick your class of warrior, thief, monk, mage, or whichever one of the mages that you want. But I hate the idea of the job system, because it just means that the characters have, as I said, less identity. And nowhere is this more present than in Final Fantasy X-2, where every, the main party in that game has 8 different dress spheres, but the stats for each character are functionally identical. It doesn't matter which character has which job. They do not excel at any particular job, which means that they're just functionally identical, and it's just a matter of taste in regards which outfit you want your character to wear. Yuna as the white mage does not outperform Riku as the white mage, even though you think her magic stat would be naturally higher, as it was in the previous game, but no, they throw all that out the window. So any character can serve any role, and as a result, they have less, as I said, there's identity from a gameplay perspective.
I mean, I kind of get that, but I think I prefer that to, say, for example, 13 system, where anyone at the end of the game can use any of the, like, different, stratagems or whatever they're called. Like, they've got all those different systems where you swap between, like, all your different party dynamics on the fly. And I like that idea, but it's like, oh, but you would never use anyone bar Fang to be your attacker because,
highest damage.
Like, they have the best damage, or you would never use anyone bar like Vanille for your mage or whatever it was. But
see, I like that though, because it means you can sometimes build, like, you can go off meta. Like in Final Fantasy
X, the
original. Oh, can you not in that game? Okay.
Like, you can, but you're just wasting stats. Like, there's no reason to ever experiment.
It's not
because,
like there's like an advantage to do. Like, for example, in Final Fantasy X, I like to make Riku my white mage because she naturally has higher speed than anyone else in the team. So if you like spec her into being a white mage, she doesn't have high magic to do damage, but her speed means she's really good at casting stuff like Protect or Shell right at the start of the round.
Because I always used the characters that were my favourite, and then when I was getting into like the very end game bosses and looking up guides and stuff, it was like, oh no, this is the one party dynamic build, you must have. This is the one build that can work for the hard fights.
And it is difficult to balance, but personally I'd prefer the characters to have a specific set role, but then you have the option or ability to like kind of mess with it a little bit. Like in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, where a lot of people play Cloud as like the aggressive attacker, not realising. So if you go check his stats, Cloud has the highest base magic stat of everyone on the team. He almost has a higher magic stat as Aerith.
He's really useful to be using like elemental magic and stuff rather than being the main attacker.
Because of
that. For sure.
Even though Cloud has the highest base magic stat, but you can play him as the attacking role if you want.
And that's where I think they've found a better balance, because I like there to be a reason to experiment rather than just you look it up and it's like, no, this is the one way to min-max your team, don't do anything else.
Which is what happens in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. You try and play it on hard mode, but we're not talking about that. So the summons in Final Fantasy III are Chocobo, Shiva, Ramu. And Ramu's not as common. Like, he's like the Thunder summon. And the Thunder summon is the one that's often changed quite a bit. Like in number 8, it's Quetzalcoatl from like Mesoamerican mythology and folklore.
Yeah, when Ramu popped up in the like both Final Fantasy 15, I think he pops up, and then in 7 Remake as well, I was like, oh, I've not really seen this one in many of the Final Fantasies I've played.
Yeah, it's just the Thunder one is often like rejigged. Like I said, it's Quetzalcoatl. I believe that's how it's pronounced. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, I do apologise. But it's like the Quetzalcoatl from like Mesoamerican folklore and mythology. And then we have Hetra, Ifrit, or Irifix. Again, that's how I pronounced it as a kid. Hyper, which is Titan, the Earth summon. And Titan's so fucking cool. Titan's so good. He's just so big. He's so large.
It just... Can we just gripe for a second, though? About the fact that, like, in Rebirth, they bring in, like, Titan with rock damage, and then it's just neutral damage because they didn't add the element.
Because, okay, so in Final Fantasy, something that's been common throughout the series is elemental damage. And for Final Fantasy VII Remake, they very obviously simplified it because having, like, 18 different elemental types was not ideal. And so you have fire, you have ice, you have lightning, you have wind, and that's it. Then in Rebirth, the first summon you fight is Titan. And it's like, ooh, and he does like Quake and Quake Arga. And you're like, ooh, are they adding in Earth Elemental as a damage type? But it's like, no, non-elemental damage. Same for when you get Leviathan in that game. Oh, it's non-elemental damage, even though it's clearly fucking water.
It's like, could you not have just added a couple more elements? No, like, we can do Quake magic in the game, but we can't do Quake, like, element damage.
Are they thinking that it'd be too much for people to understand when Pokemon exists and has, like, 16 types that all interact with each other in different, unique ways?
It's either 18 or 19 types in Pokemon, right? Yeah. And, like, that's a game that's an RPG that, A, is made so that children can play it as well, and B, it's, like, the most popular game ever.
I was disappointed in that Titan, because that means, like, half the summons in Rebirth just do non-elemental damage. So you can't, like, if you wanted to make, like, say, Barrett's, like, you know... I was looking forward when I saw like Titan turn up, I was like, oh man, I can make Barrett into like, an Earth mage. Like, give him like Earthquake, make him super beefy and tough. It's like, no, non-elemental damage. Great, thanks. Anyway. Getting back to the summons, then we have Odin. And Odin's another common one, and I do like Odin. I like how occasionally he's just like the ultimate super summon who just kills everything in one hit, and other times he's just a guy.
Yeah, and I just love the idea that is it Odin in Final Fantasy VIII that can just randomly come in and one-shot anything?
Yeah.
So I remember just in Final Fantasy VIII when it's you're looking up how to beat those what are the annoying ones that cast like silence on you immediately.
It's the hands in the ground.
The big plant monsters in the forest.
Grats. Oh yeah, Grats.
Marlborough.
Oh, Marlboroughs. Yeah, sorry, Marlboroughs. Yeah, Doi.
Yeah, I remember looking up Final Fantasy VIII tactics of like how to defeat Marlboroughs, and it was just go in, hope that Odin comes in, if not run.
Just use Odin.
Right.
Number 7 is Leviathan, and the final summon is of course Bahamut. Like, I love that every game they bring Bahamut back and they just make a new Bahamut. And like there's just a new, more badass beef form, like in Rebirth, where it's like, oh, we already had Bahamut in the previous game. It's like, no, this is Bahamut Rage, and he's red now.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I don't know where Kingdom Hearts is with Bahamut at this point, but I don't know how crazy they managed to make Bahamut in that game.
Yeah, and we'll move a couple of games forward to Final Fantasy VII, because I think that's the most common one, and we both played Final Fantasy VII. Yes, you played Rebirth, and I think you played the original like once. I played it through a few times.
I've played maybe the first few hours of the original, and then I've done like Remake and Rebirth now, but like, yeah, I've not got the most experience with original Final Fantasy VII.
Which means you're going to get some spoilers here, because there are a lot of summons in number 7.
Mm-hmm.
So the summons are Alexander, and I do like his redesign of like he's just a robot. Again, though, what does he do? Non-elemental damage. You didn't want to put Holy Magic in. You didn't want to put Holy Magic in? Okay, cool. We have Bahamut, Neo Bahamut, Bahamut Zero, and they do Mega Flare, Giga Flare, and Terra Flare, respectively. Because they fucking know. And I think the best version of Bahamut is still from like Final Fantasy VII, like Crisis Core, right? With Zack?
Yes, Crisis Core, yeah.
Where it's like Bahamut Rage or something like that. And he just does like Exaflare, where he compresses the entire moon into a gravitational singularity and fires flare through that.
Oh my god, like, what does that do against Sephiroth? Like, does Sephiroth just slice through that?
Yeah. And other summons include the Chocomog, Hades with Black Cauldron, Ifrit with Hellfire, Leviathan with Tidal Wave, Knights of the Round with Ultimate End, and Knights of the Round are so dumb. He's the dumbest, right? Like we've talked before about how like the tactic you can use to beat the original Final Fantasy VII is get Knights of the Round, attach it to HP Absorb, and then have just the next member of your party cast Mimic with the ×4 materia attached to it. So you just summon Knights of the Round 4 times for free.
And isn't, like, it a mandatory cutscene every single time that you use Knights of the Round, yeah?
I think it's a mandatory 5 to 6 minute long cutscene. And what makes it better is when you do the 4-minute one, is literally just 15 minutes of cutscenes that you can't skip. I believe there's, like, strategy guides out there that tell you to go and make a cup of tea when it's happening. Then we have Kujata with Tetra Disaster, Odin with Steel-Bladed Sword and Gunge Lance, Phoenix with Phoenix Flames, Ramu with Judgment Bolt, Shiva with the aforementioned Diamond Dust, Titan with Anger of the Land, and Typhon with Disintegration. So a lot of summons, and all of them have their own elemental affinity. With the exception of like Kujata, who has 3, like with Tetra Disaster, Odin, who's just straight up damage, and Phoenix, I believe, is mostly revival magic. It's fire magic that revives you, and then Hades is all status effects. And the status effects summons are always the ones that I find really fun.
Yeah.
Because where it's just, I love the summons that are just, you know what, fuck you, every status effect. Because he's just so mean, right?
It is, and I just also have to give a shout out to Phoenix, because when you and I were playing through Final Fantasy VIII, we got killed by the final boss and got like the Phoenix revived to bring us back for the final kill.
Yeah, we got it, what, like twice on the bounce?
Yeah,
we got
twice,
Phoenix to come back during the first and final phase of the fight, and the final possible boss. We were like, oh, it's so good.
Oh,
we can take it.
God.
No, Squall can take it. Take it, Squall. Oh! 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 The clutch! The clutch rebirth flame!
Oh, shit!
Fuck you! Oh, so clutch! He does damage.
Wait, doesn't
That can,
oh, okay, it does revive us, okay.
And he beat him, yeah, because that must be like the final thing it does.
5 minutes later.
Squall, please. Please. Done. Lost. Dead.
Wait, what?
It's activated again! Because it must be a new phase, new battle.
Oh!
New battle! Oh! Phoenix
you.
just like... Phoenix is like eating a dick
The absolute MVP.
of this run. Phoenix is like, I'm not done yet. It's Hulk Hogan in it.
Right, do it now, do it now.
Holy what? Yeah. Renzo Kukin the fuck out of this. You know what? Speaking of Final Fantasy VIII, let's go on to that one now. So, in Final Fantasy VIII, they're not summons, they're guardian forces, but it's this, for all intents and purposes, the same thing. And you're going to notice, like, you know, a trend here. We have Alexander, Bahamut. We also have Ifrit. We also have Shiva, but there's some other new ones, and they include the brothers. They're like the replacement for the Earth Summon. And they're just like the two little Earth guys who play rock, paper, scissors and throw one of them into you. We have Carbuncle with Ruby Light, who's another common summon. That I believe Ruby Light just casts like all the protective spells at once. Cerberus with counter rockets, and I love that because it just casts triple and double on your team. And the idea, it's like Cerberus has 3 heads. Perfect.
Yeah.
Diablos with Dark Messenger, who's the devil with like gravity magic. And the thing I love about his summon, even though summons in Final Fantasy VIII don't do much damage, is that when he throws like the blob of dark matter, you see like it stretch a little bit before like the full force like brings it down. And again, it's just for a flex. And we have, like I mentioned, Quetzalcoatl with Thunderstorm, Siren with Silent Voice, which silences all enemies, Pandemona with Tornado Zone, and Tonberry with Chef's Knife. Whew! What is it about Tonberry's and that fucking knife, man?
I mean, that may be the scariest summon of all, right? It's just summon a Tonberry.
Just a shiv.
Now stand back, I gotta practice my stabbing. No! Please! Help! Stop it! Please!
Just a fucking shiv. It's like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where there's those guys who are like, look, we've brought in a ringer. You're fucked now. And a Tonberry walks in. And like, you know, people who don't know what a Tonberry is, like, the fuck's this thing gonna do? And if you know what a Tonberry, you're like, oh god, no, not a Tonberry.
Yeah, like, the gimmick of a Tonberry is that it walks towards you slowly.
Yep, and just, it always has like an instant kill stab attack.
Like, if you can't stop the Tombury from reaching you in time, you die.
Just instant one-hit kill attack that cannot be resisted in a lot of the games it's in. But there's other summons in that game that aren't junctionable, means you can't equip them to your party, but they can still be summoned through gameplay. They include Angelo, who's Rinoa's dog. Do you remember just Angelo coming in for killing the final boss? He's just Rinoa's dog that runs in and just body checks. Just fire the dog. If Cade wins, I will lose my shit. If we win with this, so I think we've killed one of the parts because we're only doing damage to one bit.
Damage to one part there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did it! Cade won! Cade!
Yeah.
We just shot a dog at the ultimate opponent. And we have again Odin with Zan Tetsuken.
Oh, okay.
It's just instant kill on everything in the game, and instant kills in Final Fantasy are always the hypest thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're always so fucking hype, right? Just Zanketsuken, just everything dies.
And is it Yojimbo in Final Fantasy X that you can like bribe to instant kill things for you?
We will get to Final Fantasy X. And then we have Gilgamesh, who can also do Zantetsuken, but also he can do Masamune, Excalibur, and Excalibur. And you have not played Final Fantasy Rebirth to the very end yet, have you, Lucas? You've not fought like the optional super boss? Which means you haven't fought like the fabled mystery warrior. You've not fought Gilgamesh, have you?
No, but like I presume that's what like all of the extra side quests are leading to.
All the Genji Glove stuff, yeah? It's Gilgamesh. And the fight against Gilgamesh is actually so fucking hype. Because when you're fighting Gilgamesh, he just whips out legendary weapons from previous Final Fantasy games.
It's not this device.
That's cool.
Like, he just pulls out Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, I'm just going to use Excalibur now. And you're like, wait, what? And it's just an instant kill. And you're like, fuck!
Could it be the sword of which legend tells? Excalibur! By his holy blade, shall your lives be ended!
But then
Like,
sometimes
what do you do at that point?
But sometimes he pulls out Excalibur and it only does 1 damage. You're like, oh, that's fine. But then he swings it 1,000,000 times and it just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Oh shit!
Oh no.
This is not my Excalibur! This is but Excalibur! No matter, for I am the bladesman of legend! So come, and I shall make proof of the truth of my title!
But you can knock it out of his hand and steal it. It's great. It's such a good fight, and then they play like Battle on the Bridge, which is such a sick remix. It's so good.
Yeah, when I think that's my game to get back to when I'm done with like all the new Destiny content and like, you know, taking a break from Destiny again, I'll get back to it and finish it up.
Just Gilgamesh, the fight is so fucking good. And just the fact that he whips out on the rune axe, and he whips out the Masamune. And then at the end of the fight, he says, okay, I've got to go now. Here I come, Warriors of Light. You're like, wait, the characters from the first game? What? He just jumps into a pot. I'm going to Final Fantasy 1 now. Bye.
Oh, he's gonna go kill Chaos, Karl.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Well, but I think the Warriors are like it might be Final Fantasy 1 to the Warriors of Light in that game. It was like they're all called the Warriors of Light. It doesn't matter, but hot damn.
They are all Warriors of Light, but like that's what they're referred to in the first game, and that's what like the game Strangers of Paradise is referring to as well, of like all of the Warriors of Light and stuff. And that game, I don't thoroughly understand what that game is, but it's something to do with FF1.
But it's just the fact though that it says, okay, peace out, I'm going to another Final Fantasy game now, and I'm like, that next Final Fantasy game, Squall might turn up.
Does he like pull out his phone and start blaring Limp Bizkit as he jumps into the
He
portal?
doesn't do that, but if he did, then it's like, the fight will be perfect.
Bullshit.
Searching for a reason, my mind is on
And you mentioned Final Fantasy X earlier, Lucas, so let's jump to that one now. And there's a couple of mainstays. There's Ifrit for the fire representative and Shiva for the ice. And then just Bahamut, because like the boy's always got to be there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I love about Bahamut as well is he's the only summon that by default breaks the damage limit.
Oh, okay.
So you can break the damage limit in Final Fantasy X, which is always the hypest thing when you break 9999. And when you first summon Bahamut, like Yuna literally says, oh my, because she doesn't realise how powerful Bahamut is. Because like he comes in, he's like a clear like 10 foot taller than every other summon.
Oh my.
And what's cooler to you? Is it breaking the damage limit or doing a move like Omni Slash or whatever where you do the damage limit over and over and over?
I think hitting the damage limit for the first time, because that's like the sign that you've done real good. Like hitting 9999 for the first time feels really good. But there's certain points where it doesn't feel great. So I do prefer when you hit the damage limit over and over and over again as part of a multi-hitting attack, as opposed to just doing one big burst of damage. But the big burst of damage, if it's like a slash from your character, I prefer that. But if it's like a summon, I would prefer it to hit the damage limit every time, but hit like 100 times.
Yes.
And like one of the summons in Final Fantasy X does exactly that, and that is Anima with their Overdrive Oblivion. And that's the one where you get dragged under the earth, and the underside of Anima just punches you like 150,000 times, and each one just does like, if you've leveled it up, over 100,000 damage per hit. And Lucas, do you have a favourite summon from Final Fantasy X?
Yeah, it's just, who I mentioned earlier, our little boy Yojimbo.
Yep, and Yojimbo has a weird mechanic in the game, but essentially you just got to pay him.
It's honestly, it's one of the coolest gimmicks I've ever seen for a summon.
Yep, like, he's all the rest of the summons in the game want to help you, because the plot is, you need the summons to defeat the final boss. Yojimbo is, like, hidden in this old, like, cave where no one really goes, and you go in and talk to him, and it's like, hey, will you help me? He's like, well, pay me. So what? It's like, come on, what's in those pockets? How much gil you got? And you've got to pay him. And when his son comes out, he'll only work if you pay him. And there's a whole, like, relationship mechanic with Yojimbo. And if you keep underpaying him, he gets real mad and just, like, does shit attacks.
Yeah, and Yojimbo knows how much you've got in your pockets as well, so you've got to pay him proportionally to how rich you are.
Yes, if anyone's ever wondered how you always get Yojimbo to come out, just always pay him at least half your gil. As long as you pay him at least half your gil, you'll maintain a good relationship with him. And the little thing you can look out for is if he shakes his head, he doesn't like the amount you gave him. If he nods, that means you're in, like, good standing. And that's normally when he'll do his ultimate attack here, Zanmato.
Well, that's pretty rough when you've, like, reached endgame and you've got, like, hundreds of thousands of gil, and then every payment is like, oh no.
I will say the best thing to do, though, is when you're fighting the final boss is, you know what, fuck this, pay to win, and just give Yojimbo all of your money. But then other summons from that game, like, I mentioned the lightning one is normally the summon that gets changed. In this one, it's Ixion, who's like the thunder horse inspired by Norse mythology, and they use Thor's hammer. We'd even mention as well, I forgot about E-Freaks. His summons are usually quite cool, but I do prefer the one from Final Fantasy VIII, and that's where he puts, like, the meteorite into space and he hits it back down, but he, like, bends his back all the way back. Like, E-Freak never misses fucking spine day.
Oh god, he puts all of his back into that.
He just, like, the man puts his whole fucking ass into that hit, and it looks so cool. But because in Final Fantasy VIII you can't break the damage limit, summons very quickly get outweighed by just simple basic attacks. Like, the single most damaging thing in that game is just Zell punching things.
Yeah, it's just doing your limit breaks every single turn over and over.
Yeah, but the summons still look pretty fucking cool.
Yes!
Zell! End it! He's like,
What does he
there's
run
no
around?
world.
There's nothing to
He's
run
gonna-
around, Karl.
Lucas. The world's still there in Zell's heart. It's kept alive in Zell's heart. This is it. This is everybody's hopes. And then we have Lucas. Let's cover one more. So would you rather cover Final Fantasy 15 or Final Fantasy 16 as the two newest Final Fantasy games?
I'm gonna begrudgingly say 16 because I don't like either of those games.
Honestly, I played Final Fantasy 16 to the end. I think I got right close to the end and just realised I don't care.
I mean, that's more where I'm coming from, is my experience with both is that I hate every character I've come across in both games.
So I just did not find it fun. And to be honest, like, 16's not listed here. Because technically you don't have summons, I suppose.
Well, like, the summons are the big boss fight moments, right?
Yeah, so they're not mentioned on this list. Like, you know, after 15 it goes to like all the spin-off games. So I guess like 16 doesn't. I assumed it'd be on here. At least it'd talk about like, you know, the icons that you can like liaise like with and like channel the power of. But no, they're literally not listed as summons. So I guess they don't count as summons in Final Fantasy canon. So in which case do you have like
whoever's in charge of the wiki doesn't class them as summons.
In which case then, Lucas, do you have like another game, any game from Final Fantasy's history then? After 3.
Well, the one I'm interested in, if it's got summons, I've only played, again, the opening couple of hours, but I figured it might be interesting to talk about Final Fantasy 9, because for years there's been rumours that like they're going to remake Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy 9, they do have summons in that, and they are Eidolons in Final Fantasy 9.
Oh, just like in 13 then, yeah.
Yeah, and the various summons that you can get are... Do you want to guess what the lightning summon is?
Ooh. I guess with Final Fantasy 9 they've gone back to like all the classic ones, right?
Yeah. So it's Ramuh again. The fire one is Ifrit again. Shiva is your ice rep. Then we have Atmos, who I'm not familiar with. So I've only played a couple hours of like Final Fantasy 9. Then Odin, Leviathan, Bahamut, and Ark as the ultimate final summon. And then another character can also do some summons, but these are largely supportive in nature. They include Fenrir and Titan. I like their diff. Right, so I mean, they borrow so much from like mythology, like Fenrir from like Norse mythology. Phoenix, the Carbuncle, and Medivh.
Yeah, that's cool that they've got like the summoner class, and that's why I've always been interested in Final Fantasy 9. And again, like there's just been so many like rumors and leaks that is eventually getting some kind of remake. I've just been waiting for that, and it's like I don't think it's going to be like an FF7 remake where they completely redo it, but just, you know, if it looks like a prettier version of 9, I'm all in. It sounds like a great game.
And Lucas, before we close off, is there like any aspects of like mythology and legend that you think they've not yet plumbed for Final Fantasy that they should?
I mean, my first answer would be, where's the Jesus summon?
The Jesus summon with the big cross. Like the big cross comes in.
I'm back for the...
Oh god, just like...
That's the one thing about Final Fantasy summons, like they're generally like, you know, inspired by legend, like to the point where like just Knights of the Round is just King Arthur and his knights, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just King Arthur. Just like rolling up and just like absolutely just like laying the beat down with his squad. And like Phoenix is like, you know, the legendary Phoenix from mythology. So any mythologies that you'd like, so you'd want Jesus in with his big cross.
Yeah, just bring Jesus in, right?
Would it be like Phoenix then, where it revives you?
Well, I was thinking that maybe it could be like a status effect one where Jesus gives you like a load of water. They drink the water and then he's like, "Oh, that was wine all along. You're drunk now. You can't do anything."
I'm more thinking that he comes down and like nails the enemy to the cross so they take critical hits.
God.
The crucifixion,
He just
let's go.
crucifies his enemies.
The crucifixion, let's go for it. That is the thing though, because they do have like, you know, summons that come from other mythologies and stuff like that. Like, you know, they've got like
they've got Norse gods in there and stuff. I don't see why they couldn't have like gods of other religions in there. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, they've got like Shiva from like Hindu mythology.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. If you're going to put Shiva in, put the other ones in.
Yeah, exactly right.
Put like some of those other like cool ass gods in. Like put that big turtle god in that they all worship. All that shit.
Like I think it'd be really cool to just each game focuses on like a different set of mythology and equates all of those gods to, you know, different aspects of like religion and stuff like that, I think it'd be a really interesting way to do it. And I guess maybe they don't, just because like maybe they don't want to like accidentally offend people or something.
I guess if you put Jesus in, you're probably gonna
I mean, if Jesus just came in and started crucifying people, I might be a bit.
Well, they could put in like it's like when you like play Hades, and you get like the various aspects at Hades 1. One's like aspects of Lucifer, and it's just a fucking railgun. And they talk about like it's like just in Hades mythology, like people don't know in Hades it's like set within the ancient Greek pantheon, but like they have these like glimpses into the future. Where it's like, it's a gift from an alternate reality. Like, here's a weapon that was once wielded by the legendary Gilgamesh, for example. And they mention Lucifer, which means, like, the Christian canon exists in that universe in a way. It's like, give me aspects of Jesus and give me, like, the piece of the true cross on my fist as Zagreus comes in.
And then, like, you could just, have it where you could have Zeus in there instead of Odin, for example. Like, why not?
So I do like that Odin becomes like just the staple though, and you always see like his 6-legged horse.
I mean, I really like in 13, like, I don't like much about 13 apart from, like, I think the summons they did very well, but the fact that Odin is Odin and then turns into the horse for lightning to become the warrior on, it was very cool. And then, like, 13-2, I think it is, where just lightning becomes, like, a lack of a character completely, even though she was like as little as she was in 13, even less so, and then is just the cool goddess warrior in like the armor on the Odin horse.
That'd be quite good. That's the thing, it's solid, but like there's other aspects of Norse mythology they could have put in, and I always thought like presumably they do in like the Dissidia game or something, but like summoning other characters from Final Fantasy. Like I want to summon in Cloud. Like make Cloud a summon.
Like, what do you do when you summon Zell in and he just won't stop punching?
When you summon Zell in, she just becomes a button mash. Right in Revengeance, it's like, just mash the punch Armstrong. It'd be that, right? Just that's what make Zell a summon.
That would be one way that just, it would make me super happy to just have a game where you, like, summon in other Final Fantasy protagonists as your summons.
You probably do that in, like, World of Final Fantasy or something like that, but I've not played those games.
I'm sure at some point,
Like that one where you fight Ariana Grande. Have we seen that one? Yeah, she's in like one of those Final Fantasy Tactics games. She's got higher stats than Sephiroth. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So, thank you for watching this episode of Wiki Weekends. Let us know your favourite Final Fantasy summon in the comments, or follow the links below to get to our Discord to continue the conversation there. You can also support this channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, or going over to our Patreon to help us continue making videos like this. It's much appreciated that you've watched this far, and hopefully you'll watch again tomorrow, next week, and the week thereafter. Thank you very much for watching, and see you all next time. Cheers.